Okay, let's dig in. Here's a question for you. Do you really know yourself? Like, truly?
Hmm.
Because, well, the research suggests most of us probably don't. Not nearly as well as we think, anyway.
Yeah, it's a surprising finding, isn't it?
It really is. There was this one study, right, with prison inmates. Psychologists asked them to rate themselves on stuff like honesty, compassion, being law-abiding.
Okay.
And these inmates, people actually serving time, they consistently rated themselves as more moral, more law-abiding than the average person out on the street.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
That's something. You'd think, well, maybe they're just out of touch.
Exactly, that's what you'd assume. But here's the kicker from the source material we're looking at today. That kind of
Yeah.
skewed view. It's not just them. Apparently, it's pretty much universal, a human thing.
Uh-huh.
Think about some of the stats the book mentions. Like, one study found over a 33% of engineers think their skills are in the top 5% of all engineers.
Which is mathematically.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Right. Or university professors, 94% rate themselves as better than average at their jobs. It's more than just, healthy confidence. It's this documented bias, the better than average effect.
And it points straight towards a lack of what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Self-awareness.
Exactly. Our ability to see ourselves clearly, how we are inside and how we come across to others. That's self-awareness. And the source we're drawing on, particularly the work of Tasha Eurich in her book Insight, argues this is maybe the critical skill for the 21st century, like a meta skill.
Yeah, foundational for so much else.
Mm.
Emotional intelligence, empathy, working well with others, all that stuff.
Definitely. Vital skills. But clearly, it's super hard to get right. And those examples show a lot of us are maybe overestimating how self-aware we actually are.
Definitely seems that way.
So for this deep dive, that's our mission. Let's unpack what self-awareness really means, figure out why it's such a tough nut to crack, and crucially, look at the practical ways the research says we can actually improve it.
Okay, sounds good. And right away, that definition is important. The source defines self-awareness as having both the willingness and the skill to understand ourselves. But also, and this is key, how others see us.
Right, not just facts about yourself.
Exactly. It's not just knowing your height or your job title.
Yeah.
It's deeper insight. Like, what are your core values? What really drives you? What patterns pop up in your behavior? What kind of environment helps you thrive? And maybe the trickier part, what effect do you actually have on other people?
Mm-hmm.
The book uses a great little example with a chemistry test score. Getting 90%, that's a fact.
Okay.
But self-awareness isn't just knowing the score. It's the insight around the score. Was 90% great for you or kind of disappointing? What does it say about how you studied? Did you really get the material or did you just, scrape by? It's that evaluation, the context, the meaning behind the fact.
Gotcha. The story behind the number.
Precisely. And this insight works on two levels, which the source splits into two types. First, there's inner self-awareness. That's looking inward, understanding your feelings, values, goals, your own patterns.
Okay.
And second, there's outer self-awareness. That's about seeing yourself from the outside. How do other people perceive your actions? What impact are you actually having on them?
So how I see me and how they see me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can be quite different back to the chemistry score. Your inner self-awareness might be, only 90%. I know I could have aced that. Pure frustration.
Right.
But your outer self-awareness is realizing that maybe your professor, your classmates see that 90% and think, wow, they really know their stuff. Total competence. These views don't always match up, and they're separate skills, but real self-awareness needs both.
Right. It's that combo that makes it the meta skill you mentioned earlier. It affects everything: leadership, relationships, career moves, just navigating life, really. If you lack it, you're kind of flying blind, making choices based on a fuzzy picture.
Or a completely wrong picture sometimes. And the costs. Well, the source makes it clear they could be huge. Research cited shows that senior execs low on self-awareness are 5 times more likely to derail.
5 times. Wow. Derail meaning.
Lose their jobs, get demoted, stall out. And when their lack of insight leads to bad decisions, those mistakes cost their companies, on average. Wait for it, $50 million per person.
50 million. Okay, that definitely gets your attention. That really underlines the stakes here. So if it's that important and the downside is so massive, why is it so darn hard to actually get this self-awareness thing?
Good question. The source points to a couple of big roadblocks built into how we think.
Okay.
The first major one is our thinking blind spots. Our minds aren't, these perfect rational calculators.
Definitely not.
So there's the emotional blind spot. Basically, how we feel right now heavily influences how we judge ourselves, often way more than we realize. The happiness coin experiment is a simple, kind of funny example. Students were asked how happy they were overall. But some, just before, were kind of nudged into finding a lost coin someone accidentally dropped. Those who found the coin, this tiny random positive thing, reported being significantly happier with their lives in general compared to those who didn't find one.
Just from finding a coin.
Yep. A fleeting good feeling colored their whole self-assessment. Our mood constantly tints the lens through which we see ourselves.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Then there's the cognitive blind spot. This is where we judge ourselves based less on what we actually do or achieve and more on our general beliefs about ourselves, our potential, our supposed talents. Oh, I'm just not good with names, or I'm naturally a great leader, or math just isn't my thing.
Right, those fixed ideas we have.
Exactly. And what's really surprising here is that being an expert can actually make this blind spot worse.
How so?
The book gives this amazing example about baseball experts. In 2013, they asked, I think it was, 43 professional baseball analysts and experts to predict who would be in the World Series.
Okay, people who live and breathe baseball.
Totally. Their whole job. Guess how many got it right?
Maybe a few?
0. None of them.
Wow, seriously.
Seriously. It suggests their deep expertise, maybe their confidence in that expertise, actually blinded them somehow.
Yep.
Overconfidence in our own skills is a big cognitive trap.
So feelings mess with our view, and our beliefs or even our expertise can make us ignore reality. That covers the internal stuff. Did the source mention anything else getting in the way? Maybe something more external?
Yes, the second big factor the book talks about is something like self-admiration, maybe even edging into self-worship. It's not necessarily about being vain, but more about this modern tendency to put a ton of energy into crafting an ideal image of ourselves, especially for other people.
Like social media profile curator.
Exactly. That's a prime example. Carefully selecting the highlights, presenting the version of you that's always successful, happy, got it all together. It's about building that polished facade. And the source links this to Maslow's hierarchy, Self-actualization, becoming your best self, that's the peak, but it's really hard work.
Yeah.
The book suggests that for many people, boosting self-esteem has become a kind of shortcut. Instead of doing the hard work of being great, it's easier to focus on feeling great or looking great.
The path of least resistance.
Pretty much. Like editing a photo to make your face look thinner or your legs longer. It's a quick fix to feel better about yourself, much quicker than actually changing your diet or hitting the gym consistently. This push to present this idealized version makes us exaggerate our good points and downplay the bad, creating another huge barrier to seeing ourselves clearly.
Okay, that hits home. So we know what it is, seeing ourselves inside and out, and we get why it's tough thanks to blind spots and this self-admiration pressure. Sounds a bit bleak.
It can feel that way.
But the good news, right? The source says this isn't fixed. We can actually get better at it.
Absolutely. That's the hopeful message. It's a skill, and skills can be learned and developed. The approach the book lays out tackles both sides we talked about. Building that inner understanding and deliberately working on the outer perspective.
Okay, let's start inside then. How do we improve that inner self-awareness?
Well, the first instinct people often have is just to, reflect more. But the source warns that not all reflection is helpful. Some can actually make things worse.
How so?
There's an example of a manager, let's call it Karen. Successful in her career, but her personal life was a mess, multiple divorces. When she tried to reflect, she kept circling back to being abandoned by her parents as a kid. She decided that was the single reason for all her relationship problems now. Now, understanding your past is definitely part of the picture, but focusing only on something you can't change and making it the sole explanation for everything happening now just left her feeling stuck, trapped by her history, rather than empowered to change her present behavior. That's rumination, not helpful reflection.
All right, just dwelling on the negative past without seeing a way forward. So what is effective self-reflection then?
Good question. First, we need to actively avoid rumination. That's getting caught in that toxic loop, replaying mistakes, fears, insecurities. Why did I eat that cake? Why am I always late? It just keeps you focused on the problem and your perceived flaws.
Okay, so how do you stop that spiral?
The book gives a couple of practical tips. 1, try to get some perspective. Ask yourself honestly, in the grand scheme of things, will other people care about this half as much as I do right now? Often the answer is no, and that can help you let it go.
True.
2, use what the book calls the pause button. The moment you catch yourself ruminating, just stop. Immediately switch to something else, something quick, positive, absorbing. Go for a walk, put on some music, clean something, call a friend. It breaks the cycle, calms you down, and you can come back to the issue later, if needed, with a clearer head.
Like hitting reset. I like that.
Exactly. Another really crucial shift is how you ask yourself questions during reflection. The advice is ask what instead of why.
What instead of why? How does that work?
Asking why tends to send you backwards, looking for problems, limitations, root causes, often in the past. Why am I so stressed? Leads to listing all the stressors. Asking what, however, points you toward solutions, potential, and future actions. What situations make me feel stressed? Or what can I do differently next time?
Ah, okay. More forward-looking.
Precisely.
Yeah.
There's a great story about a business owner, Dan. Successful, but really unhappy. When asked why he wanted things to change, he just listed his flaws: bored, cynical, felt useless, total dead end.
Stuck in the negative.
Totally. But then the question shifted to what kind of work he would actually like to do. And boom, his whole energy changed. He immediately started talking about his passion for public speaking, engaging with people. The what question bypassed all the self-criticism and pointed him straight towards what energized him.
That's a powerful shift, just changing one word. So beyond avoiding rumination and asking what, are there more like structured methods for this inner work?
Yes, absolutely. The book offers 3 really interesting systematic methods, kind of looking at your past, present, and future self.
Okay.
For understanding your past, there's the life story method. It's basically like becoming the author of your own autobiography, based on work by psychologist Dan McAdams.
So journaling, but more structured.
Kind of, yeah. You divide your life into meaningful chapters: childhood, teens, early career, etc. Then for each chapter, you identify maybe 5 to 10 key events or turning points. Not just milestones, but moments that felt really significant to you.
Like big decisions or failures or happy times.
Exactly. A tough move, a great friendship, a major choice, a big screw-up, a peak moment. For each one, you jot down the details: when, where, who, what happened, how you felt, how others felt, and critically, why you think it was important, how it shaped you.
And the point is,
The point is to then step back and look for the patterns, the recurring themes, the core values that jump out. How do these moments make you who you are? It helps you build a richer understanding of your own narrative beyond just that was good or that was bad.
okay, that sounds quite involved, but potentially very insightful. What about the present?
For the present, the key practice recommended is mindfulness. And it's important to be clear, this isn't just about relaxation, though that can be a side effect. It's about paying full attention, on purpose, to what's happening right now. Your thoughts, feelings, sensations, surroundings, and observing it all with curiosity and acceptance, without judging or needing to fix anything immediately.
Right. Paying attention on purpose.
Exactly. There was a study with unemployed people that really highlights the difference. One group did mindfulness exercises focusing on body sensations. Another group did relaxation activities like socializing. Both felt better short term.
Okay.
But brain scans showed the mindfulness group had actual changes: more focus, more calm. And crucially, 4 months later, while the relaxation group's stress was creeping back up, the mindfulness group's stress was still significantly lower than before the study even started. It suggests a much deeper, lasting impact.
Wow. So how do you practice it for self-awareness?
It takes dedicated time, even just a few minutes. You can sit quietly, walk mindfully, focus on your breath. The source suggests 2 specific ways to guide your focus. One is the tourist mindset.
Tourist mindset.
Yeah, imagine you're seeing your own thoughts, feelings, daily routines for the very first time, like a tourist in your own life. What do you notice that you normally tune out? The second is comparison contrast. Actively look for patterns. Why did I feel great after that meeting but drained after this one? I react this way whenever X comes up.
What's that about? This helps you spot triggers, predict reactions, manage stress better, make wiser choices.
Makes sense. Observing yourself without judgment. Okay, so past is life story, present is mindfulness. What about the future, especially when we're feeling anxious about it?
For future worries, the book offers the miracle question. It's a technique from therapy designed to cut through the anxiety and focus on solutions. 2 steps. Step 1. Imagine tonight, while you sleep, a miracle happens. The problem you're worried about is completely solved. Just gone.
Okay, nice thought. Right. Step 2. You wake up tomorrow morning. What's the very first small, concrete thing you would notice that tells you, the miracle happened?
First sign.
Exactly. The example is Matt, a CEO, suddenly thrust into a new role, totally anxious, feeling unqualified, worried his team wouldn't respect him.
Okay.
So, miracle question. Step 1. Miracle happens, anxiety gone. Team's great. Step 2, what's the first sign? Matt realized the first thing he'd notice is himself comfortably asking his team for input, delegating tasks, things his anxiety was stopping him from doing.
Ah, so it didn't solve the anxiety itself, but it showed him what behavior needed to change.
Precisely. It bypassed the feeling of anxiety and pointed directly to the actions he needed to take, seeking input, delegating. It shifted him from being stuck in the problem, I'm not good enough, to seeing potential solutions, I need to ask for help more.
That's really clever. Leaping over the worry to see what better actually looks like in practice. Okay, so those are some great tools for the inner work. What about the other side? Outer self-awareness. Getting a handle on how others see us. Why is their view so important?
Well, simply put, they often see things we just can't. Our blind spots.
Hmm.
They see our facial expressions, hear our tone of voice, notice the impact of our actions in ways we're often oblivious to. Their perspective is usually more objective, or at least offers a different valuable angle.
But getting that honest feedback,
Yeah,
that's tough.
it really is. The source talks about the silence effect. People, especially people who care about us, tend to hold back on critical feedback. They don't want to cause conflict. They don't want to hurt our feelings.
Yeah, like asking your partner, does this make me look fat? You're probably not going to get brutal honesty.
Exactly. They'll likely dodge or soften it because they want to keep the peace or protect your feelings. So getting real feedback requires a more deliberate approach.
So what's the approach? How do we break that silence?
The key recommendation is to actively seek out and cultivate relationships with loving critics.
Loving critics. Sounds like an oxymoron.
It does a bit. But it means finding those specific people in your life, maybe a friend, family member, mentor, colleague, who meet two criteria. One, you trust them enough to be truly honest and vulnerable with them. And two, they're committed to being honest back to you, even when it's difficult.
Okay.
And crucially, their intention is good. They genuinely care about you, want you to succeed, and aren't just trying to tear you down. As you hear that description, maybe think, does anyone specific come to mind for you? That person might be a potential loving critic.
Yeah, maybe one or two people. But okay, even if you find someone like that, getting criticized still stings.
Right.
Even if it comes from a good place. How do you actually take that feedback without getting defensive or shutting down?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's where the book introduces a really practical framework. The 3R model for processing feedback.
3R. Okay.
It stands for receive, reflect, react.
Receive, reflect, react. Got it.
Receive is step 1,
Yeah.
and often the hardest.
Yeah.
Just take it in, listen fully. Don't interrupt, don't argue, don't make excuses. Just acknowledge that this is their perception you're hearing. Breathe through the discomfort.
Easier said than done, but okay. Receive.
Then reflect. Step away from the immediate conversation. Take some time to really think about what was said. Does any of it ring true, even a little bit? Can you see why they might see it that way, even if you disagree? What impact might that behavior be having? This is where you digest and analyze it, away from the heat of the moment.
Okay, mull it over.
Right. And only then, react. Based on your reflection, you decide what to do. Maybe you go back to your loving critic and ask clarifying questions. Maybe you just thank them for their honesty. Or, importantly, maybe you decide, okay, there's something here I need to change, and you actually take action based on the feedback.
Receive, reflect, react. That makes sense as a process.
There's a powerful example of an executive, Kim. She got feedback that her team found her harsh, aggressive. She was totally blindsided, devastated. Yeah. But she used the 3R model. First, she received it, felt the shock, but didn't fight it initially. Then she reflected. She wasn't sure why people saw her that way, so she asked her own loving critics to watch her in meetings. They gently pointed out she tended to jump on negatives. Her tone was often critical patterns she'd learned from her parents. That outside view during reflection was key.
Ah, connecting the dots.
Exactly. Finally, she reacted. She consciously worked on her communication, practiced being more open, less immediately critical. And the result? Her boss noticed a huge positive shift in her team relationships, and her own confidence grew because she'd closed that outer awareness gap.
That's a great story. Shows it's tough, but worth it.
Definitely. Kim's experience really shows that while getting that outer perspective can be painful, bravely receiving it, thoughtfully reflecting on it, and purposefully reacting is absolutely crucial for growth.
Okay, the 3R model.
Yeah.
Definitely practical. So let's quickly recap this deep dive then. We've talked about what self-awareness really is, that blend of inner understanding and outer perspective.
Right? Knowing yourself and knowing how others see you.
And we dug into why it's so surprisingly difficult for most of us, those sneaky emotional and cognitive blind spots tripping us up internally.
Uh-huh. And that modern pressure toward self-admiration, creating an idealized image instead of seeing the real picture.
But then, crucially, we looked at how to actually build it for inner awareness,
Mhm.
ditching harmful rumination, asking what, not why, and using tools like the life story method for the past.
Mindfulness for the present and the miracle question to unlock the future.
And for outer awareness,
Yeah.
the importance of finding those loving critics.
Yeah, the people who will tell you the truth because they care.
And using that 3R model, receive, reflect, react, to actually process and use their feedback constructively.
Exactly. It's a whole toolkit, really.
It really is.
And it's worth remembering, becoming more self-aware isn't like flipping a switch or reaching some final destination. It's more of an ongoing journey. A continuous practice of looking inward and looking outward and adjusting as you go.
A journey, not a destination. I like that. But it feels like a journey with huge payoffs. If you actively work on understanding who you are inside and how you actually show up in the world, you're just going to be better placed to make good choices, build stronger relationships, handle whatever life throws at you with more clarity, more purpose.
Couldn't agree more.
So maybe as you finish listening today, just a thought to leave you with. Is there one little area where you suspect you might have a blind spot, something you haven't really looked at, honestly? And maybe, just maybe, who is one person in your life who could be that loving critic, someone you could perhaps reach out to this week for just a bit more insight?